Hello my friends and welcome. It is time for a new Saturday video, and I'm going to preface this video with saying that I have been trying really hard to not buy books this summer. Really hard. I did order these at the end of June, I think, and they've kind of been sitting around, but I thought now would be a good time to share with you 12 books that I did get before I went on my summer trying not to buy books ban. The reason that I am really trying not to buy books over the summer is because I am a teacher and I don't get paid in the summer, and I have to have some self-control at some point in time in my life as well. So summer seems like a good time to do it. I will of course still be getting books for our monthly Pop Sugar reading challenge and if I need things for school, but it's really limited at what I'm trying to purchase at this point. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the 12 books that I did manage to acquire. The first book is The Seventh Most Important Thing by Shelley Parasol. There we go. I think it's Parasol. Parasol? There we go. Maybe. In this book, Arthur sees a man who is digging through the trash and he decides to take a loose brick and throw it at him. And it ends up becoming this whole thing. He's arrested. He has to go to court for it. And the judge is pissed. He wants Arthur in juvie like forever until he turns 18. The man who is digging through the trash, otherwise known as the junk man, decides to offer an alternative to Arthur, and he says that if he does 120 community service hours with him, then he can avoid the juvie sentence instead. Arthur decides to go and take this plea deal of a sense and go do his 120 community service hours with the junk man, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of life lessons, like going through trash and maybe talking about memories, and maybe he gets to know more about this man that he thought was just picking through trash. And it seems like there's going to be some really deep sentimental stuff that comes out in this that really is life altering for Arthur himself as a character. The reason that I picked it up is I think it's going to be a great middle grade novel to add to the shelf. It seems like it has some really great themes in there and that kids are really going to kind of connect with maybe the idea of bullying someone and judging someone before you know them and the lessons that you learn from them. I don't know if I'm going to read this before I put it on my shelf, but it'll probably just make its way into school before, but I might try to get to it at some point. Up next is Hold Still by Nina LaCour, and the only reason that I picked this book up is because in my Hope in a Box, I got a different title from the same author, so I was curious to see if this one was also going to focus on LGBTQ, but it doesn't seem like it. I think it actually focuses more on juvenile suicide. Hold Still is the author's actual debut novel, and it is about two friends, Ingrid and Caitlin. And one night, Ingrid makes Caitlin a promise, or has her promise something, and then I believe it's the next day Ingrid commits suicide. And so Caitlin is left to process through obviously the traumatic death of her friend, but Ingrid has also left different things for Caitlin to find and to like have her connect with throughout, even though she's gone. So even though this is going to be a really tough read, I think that it's also really important for students to have and to be able to talk about maybe mental health awareness if it touches on that, and how you can find hope in really tragic situations and come back from these kinds of events if they were to happen. All right, up next is Flipped, and this is by Wendelin Van Dran. I have The Running Dream on my shelf. I haven't read it yet. I've seen this forever. It came out a long time ago, I want to say, and I've never read it or picked it up before either. Let's see, 2001. Yeah, so it's been out for a while, and it's just something that I haven't ever read. This book is about two characters. We have Bryce and we have Juliana, and in second grade there was some kind of situation. I believe that Juliana kisses Bryce or is kissed, or something happens along that line, and so she has walked around forever saying that that was her first kiss and like how cool it was, whatever, and Bryce constantly runs away from her and avoids her. And then something happens as they're going into 8th grade where things get flipped around and they somehow are in a situation where they have to know more about each other, and they're kind of realizing that there's more than meets the eye. But it seems like it's a lighthearted romance, I guess. I'm not really sure, but I know I've seen this forever, and it's probably about time that I picked up a copy of it. And maybe I will, I don't know if I'll add this to my TBR shelf or just throw it on the shelf and get to it at some point, but I now have a copy of it, so I guess that's all that matters. My students are always begging me for more graphic novels, and I found this one called Measuring Up. It is by Lily Lamont and Anne Zhu. It is about 12-year-old Cece, who has recently moved from Taiwan to Seattle, and her grandmother's 70th birthday is coming up, and she would want nothing more than to spend it with her grandmother, but her grandmother is still in Taiwan. So she comes up with this wild plan that she is going to win a cooking contest, and with the prize money she'll be able to purchase a ticket to Taiwan. No, she's going to have her grandmother come from Taiwan and come spend her 70th birthday there. So it sounds like it's probably going to be messy. It's middle grade. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's very colorful in the pages, and I think this is one that several students will read, and it won't be able to stay on my shelf for very long. All right, the only reason that I bought this book is because I have the first two already on my shelf at school, and this one is Nyxia Uprising. It is by Scott Raintigan, I think. Please don't quote me on that. I don't really know much about the series. I just knew that I didn't have the third, and I hate not having the full collection of stuff ready for students in case they like tear through the first two. So this is not one that I'm going to read this summer. This is going to go right onto the shelf, and then hopefully I will get to it at some point in time. My students absolutely love a good thriller mystery, so I picked up The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas. And in the town of Sunnybrook, there are no more cheerleaders. 5 years ago, it started with a car accident, and then cheerleaders started being murdered one by one. The faculty and staff want to remember these cheerleaders. They want to remember their lives. And Monica, who it isn't very clear her role right now, if she was a cheerleader or if she just was like friends with them or what have you, but she wants to forget that this whole thing has ever happened. But now, 5 years down the road, there are things that are starting to come back up that Monica seems to be right at the center of, and I don't know if it's quite that she is still, like, the murderer was never uncovered as far as I can tell, so somehow she's in the middle of it, and I don't know if she's actively trying to figure out who the murderer or whatever happened, if she's like playing detective, or if somebody's coming after her for some other reason, like they haven't finished the job kind of thing. Up next is Swing by Kwame Alexander. I've read numerous books of his before. This one is also written in verse. This book is about Walt and Noah and their drive to become athletically famous and to woo all of the girls that are in front of them. And Walt thinks that he's going to do this by listening to a podcast all about love. And Noah has kind of admitted to his crush Sam that he likes her, I think, because it says that she's kind of left him, like, she's put him in the friend zone, and he's not about that. So both of them are working on like their baseball swings, and they're trying to woo all of these girls. It seems like it's going to be kind of lighthearted and fun, but maybe a little bit serious too at the same time, because it talks about American flags being planted around their town and that something is brewing, but the boys don't really know what it is yet. So I think that I might be able to get to that this summer because it's a novel in verse, but I have some pretty big plans already. So this one may just go right on the shelf and I'll come to it at a different day and time. Up next is a collection of short stories, and this is Black Enough, and it is stories about being young and Black in America. It is written by a plethora of different authors. We have Justina Ireland, Varian Johnson, Rita Williams Garcia, Danielle Clayton, Kekla Magoon, Leah Henderson, Tochi Onobuchi, Jason Reynolds, Nick Stone, Liara Tamani, Renee Watson, Tracy Batista, Co Booth, Brandy Colbert, Jay Coles, Ibi Zobo, and Lamar Giles. There are some huge names in this book, and it's something that I have wanted a copy of for a while, and I also think that I could probably use pieces of this. I'm not sure yet though because I haven't read it yet, but I do think I might be able to use some pieces of this, especially like in our social justice unit and our voices unit that we do later on, as very personal experiences of what it means to be a Black young adult, or even just teenager or pre-teenager living in America. I definitely have one of these authors' books at school at one point. This is S.A. Bowden, and the book is called The Raft. I know nothing about it, except my kids like adventure, especially survival books, and this just looks like that's exactly what it is. Basically, Robbie, our main character, is on a flight back from Hawaii, and the plane crashes and she's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There's one other survivor who pulls her onto a raft, and then they kind of realize how screwed they are because there's no water, there's no food, and they're just drifting. So this is definitely the ultimate survivor test to get out of the middle of the Pacific Ocean alive. The next 3 books I'm going to talk about are all part of the DC Icons cluster. I think the only one I'm missing right now is Batman. So I ended up with a copy of Catwoman by Sarah J. Maas, Superman by Matt De La Pena, and Wonder Woman by Leigh Bardugo. I don't really necessarily care for any of these superheroes, but I do enjoy these authors, especially Leigh Bardugo and Sarah J. Maas. So I might read them. I think that they just have like each individual stories about the different superheroes. So this is what the Catwoman one looks like. And then there's Superman. And then there's Wonder Woman. I don't know how interested I am in actually reading these, but maybe. I feel like these will be a top hit as well, which is why I got them. It's not really about me with these books at all. It's about my kids. So just add these to like my adventure collection that I have going on. All right, so that brings us to the end. Ooh, there we are. Maybe. That brings us to the end of this Saturday's video, and I think that this stack is going to fall, so I might just put it down. But these are the 12 books I've recently acquired. I'm really trying not to buy books, especially after this, so most of these are probably going to head right into my classroom for students to read once we get back in the fall. But I am also in no rush to go back right now. I'm trying to enjoy my summer as much as possible. That is all I have for this Saturday. Short and sweet. Thanks for sticking around and watching. If you've read any of the books that I talked about today, I'd love to know your thoughts, especially if there's something that I should definitely not put on the shelf right away so that I can read it first. But other than that, you have a great Saturday, and I'll see you back here next week for a new video. Bye!